Somewhere on this planet, right now, there are islands, vaults, caves, and entire zones surrounded by armed guards, barbed wire, or nothing but thousands of kilometers of open ocean. Places where setting foot could get you arrested, killed, or worse. These aren't your average no trespassing signs. I'm talking government-sealed radiation zones, sacred tribal lands protected by arrows, and biological research stations where one wrong move could unleash a pandemic. Some of these places have been off limits for decades. Others have been forbidden for centuries. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are the 25 most isolated places on Earth where humans are strictly forbidden from entering. But before we dive in, I want to thank today's sponsor, Storyblocks. If you've ever wondered how we actually put these videos together, especially the parts that need extra footage or music, well, Storyblocks is it. Their library is absolutely incredible. When you're editing a video and looking for something to support what you're saying, maybe a clip or a track, it can take ages. Not to mention that you have to go for all the stuff that's usually in the public domain and not quite up to scratch. So Storyblocks is basically where I pull everything from now. It's got footage, music, sound effects, and templates all in one library. So I'm not jumping between different sites trying to piece things together. And everything in there is made by real filmmakers and artists, which helps because it actually fits into a video like this without feeling out of place. There's no licensing headaches either. Everything you download is royalty-free and ready to use. So once you've got it, you can just drop it into your video, even if it's monetized, and move on. To start telling better stories with the tools I use, click the link in the description below. They're offering 15% off any annual plan for a limited time, and that discount is only available through my link. 25. North Sentinel Island. Let's kick things off with what might be the most famous forbidden place on Earth. North Sentinel Island sits in the Bay of Bengal, home to the Sentinelese, which is one of the last uncontacted tribes on the planet. These people have lived in near total isolation for an estimated 60,000 years, and they've made it abundantly clear they want nothing to do with the outside world. Every attempt at contact has been met with a volley of arrows. In 2006, 2 fishermen who drifted too close were killed. In 2018, American missionary John Allen Chau illegally traveled to the island and was also killed. The Indian government has established a 5-kilometer exclusion zone around the island. Visiting is a criminal offense. The Indian government decided the Sentinelese have the right to be left alone, and the island remains one of the few places on Earth where modern civilization has zero foothold. 24. Heard Island. Sitting roughly 4,000 kilometers southwest of Perth in the Southern Ocean, Heard Island is one of the most remote landmasses on the planet. It's dominated by Big Ben, a 2,745-meter active volcano perpetually shrouded in glaciers and clouds. The weather here is so brutal, with constant gale-force winds, freezing rain, and sub-zero temperatures, that even scientists rarely visit. Australia declared it a restricted territory, and access requires special permits that are almost never granted. There are no permanent residents, no structures, and no airstrip. The only way to reach it is by ship, and the journey takes about 2 weeks from the nearest port. The island's ecosystem is pristine precisely because humans stay away. Massive colonies of penguins and seals thrive here without any human interference, making it one of the last truly wild places left. 23. Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Buried deep inside a mountain on a remote Arctic island, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault holds over 1 million seed samples from nearly every country on Earth. It's humanity's insurance policy against agricultural catastrophe. The vault is located on Spitsbergen, about 1,300 kilometers from the North Pole. While the island itself is accessible, the vault interior is strictly off limits to the public. Only authorized depositors can enter, and they do so under strict protocols. The permafrost and thick rock provide natural freezing and security. Even during the Syrian civil war, researchers from Aleppo successfully retrieved seeds they deposited years earlier, and that's the only withdrawal in the vault's history. That single event proved exactly why this place exists and why it must remain sealed. 22. Lascaux Caves. In 1940, two teens stumbled upon one of the greatest archaeological finds in history. The cave system in southwestern France covered in 17,000-year-old Paleolithic paintings. The artwork depicts horses, deer, bulls, and abstract symbols in stunning detail, created by humans during the last ice age. After the caves were opened to the public in 1948, something terrible happened. The carbon dioxide and humidity from thousands of visitors began destroying the paintings. Algae and fungi started growing on the walls, threatening to erase artwork that had survived 170 centuries. France sealed the caves permanently in 1963. Today, only a handful of conservators are allowed inside for brief monitoring visits. Tourists can visit Lascaux 4, a meticulously recreated replica nearby, but the real caves remain locked away for perhaps forever. 21. Area 51. No list of forbidden places would be complete without the most famous military installation in the world. Located within the Nevada Test and Training Range, Area 51 has been the subject of conspiracy theories for decades. The restricted zone covers hundreds of square kilometers of desert, patrolled by security forces known locally as Camo Dudes. The US government didn't even officially acknowledge the base's existence until 2013, when declassified CIA documents confirmed it was used for testing experimental aircraft like the U-2 and SR-71 Blackbird. The secrecy was about Cold War espionage, not aliens, but that hasn't stopped the speculation. Armed guards, motion sensors, and surveillance cameras protect every inch of the perimeter. Signs warn that photography is prohibited and that use of deadly force is authorized. Whatever they're testing there now remains classified. 20. Snake Island. Off the coast of Sao Paulo lies a 110-acre island that's home to between 2,000 and 4,000 golden lancehead vipers, which is one of the deadliest snakes in the world. Their venom can melt human flesh, and there's roughly one snake per square meter in some areas. The Brazilian government has completely banned civilian access to the island. The only people allowed to visit are researchers with special permits from the Chico Mendes Institute, and even they take extreme precautions. The Navy periodically patrols the waters to ensure no one attempts to land. Local legends claim that the last lighthouse keeper and his family were killed by snakes that slithered through their windows. Whether that story is true or not, the reality is terrifying enough, and this island is a literal death trap with scales. 19. Poveglia Island. Sitting in the Venetian lagoon between Venice and Lido, Poveglia has one of the darkest histories of any place on Earth. During the bubonic plague outbreaks, the island was used as a quarantine station and mass burial site. Historians estimate that over 160,000 plague victims were dumped here, and the soil is literally mixed with human ash. In the early 20th century, Italy built a psychiatric hospital on the island, which operated until 1968. Rumors of cruel experiments by a deranged doctor persist, though records are scarce. Since then, the Italian government has banned public access, and the crumbling buildings sit abandoned. Despite the occasional attempts to auction or develop the island, it's been blocked by public outcry and local superstition. Fishermen avoid the waters, and the few people who visited illegally report an overwhelming sense of dread. 18. Surtsey. In 1963, an undersea volcanic eruption created an entirely new island off the southern coast of Iceland. Named Surtsey after the Norse fire god Surtur, the island emerged from the ocean over 4 years of eruptions and eventually stabilized at about 1.4 square kilometers. Scientists immediately recognized an incredible opportunity to watch life colonize a completely sterile landmass from scratch. To protect this natural experiment, Iceland restricted access to only a small number of approved researchers. No tourists, no development, no interference. Over the decades, scientists have documented mosses, lichens, insects, and eventually birds arriving and establishing populations. One researcher accidentally introduced a tomato plant by using the island as a bathroom, but it was promptly removed. The experiment continues to this day. 17. Vatican Secret Archives. Despite the name, the Vatican Apostolic Archive isn't really secret in the conspiracy theory sense. The word comes from the Latin secretum, meaning private. The archive contains about 85 kilometers of shelving holding documents spanning over 1,200 years of church history. Yet, despite that, access is granted to only qualified scholars who must apply with specific research proposals. Even then, they can only view documents they've specifically requested. There's no browsing allowed. Some sections remain completely sealed, including documents related to recent papal conclaves. The archive holds extraordinary items such as a letter from Michelangelo complaining about late payments for the Sistine Chapel, correspondence between Henry VIII and the Pope about his divorce, and documents from the trial of Galileo. The full scope of what's inside remains unknown, even to the archivists. 16. Ise Grand Shrine. The Ise Grand Shrine in Japan's Mie Prefecture is the most sacred site in Shinto religion, dedicated to the sun goddess Amaterasu. What makes it unique among forbidden places is that it's been continuously rebuilt every 20 years for the past 1,300 years, a tradition called Shikinen Sengu. The inner sanctum, known as the Niihau, is surrounded by 4 wooden fences, and only the highest-ranking priest may enter the innermost chamber. Even Japan's emperor must stop at the outer gate. Ordinary visitors can only see the thatched roof rising above the fences. This isn't about government secrecy or physical danger. The restriction is purely spiritual, maintained by centuries of unbroken tradition. The shrine complex contains 125 subsidiary shrines across a forest of ancient Japanese cedar trees, creating one of the most peaceful, yet inaccessible places in the world. 15. Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. Now, here's where it gets weird, because technically you can visit parts of Chernobyl. Tour groups have been going for years. But the inner 10-kilometer excursion zone around Reactor 4 remains strictly forbidden. This is because the radiation levels here are still lethal enough to kill you within hours of prolonged exposure. After the 1986 disaster, the Soviet Union evacuated over 350,000 people from the surrounding area. The city of Pripyat, once home to 49,000 people, was abandoned in 36 hours. Today, it stands frozen in time, slowly being consumed by nature. The new safe confinement structure, completed in 2016, now covers the exploded reactor. But beneath it, the elephant's foot, which is a mass of molten nuclear fuel, sand, and concrete, remains so radioactive that it'll be dangerous for another 20,000 years. It's one of the places that are just meant to stay empty. 14. Bohemian Grove. Every July, some of the most powerful men in America, like former presidents, CEOs, senators, and media moguls, gather at a 2,700-acre compound in the redwood forests of Monte Rio, California, for a retreat that the Bohemian Club has been hosting since 1878, and security is absolute. The 2-week gathering famously begins with the cremation of care ceremony, where a coffin effigy is burned before a 12-meter concrete owl. Members camp in themed camps with names like Caveman and Hillbillies. Journalists, women, and uninvited guests are strictly prohibited. Then, in 2000, radio host Alex Jones snuck in with a hidden camera, and the resulting footage fueled decades of conspiracy theories. Whatever actually happens in those woods stays behind gates patrolled by private security. 13. Tomb of Qin Shi Huang. In 1974, farmers digging a well near Xi'an uncovered the Terracotta Army, which is 8,000 life-sized clay soldiers guarding the tomb of China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang. But the actual burial chamber? It's never been opened. Ancient historian Sima Qian wrote that the tomb contains rivers of mercury, jeweled ceilings representing the night sky, and crossbow booby traps. Soil testing has confirmed abnormally high mercury levels around the mound, suggesting Sima Qian wasn't exaggerating. The Chinese government has refused to evacuate either, citing concerns that current technology can't preserve what's inside. The mound sits in plain sight like a 76-meter tall earthen pyramid, but no one alive has seen its interior. Some archaeologists argue we should wait another century until preservation technology improves. So until then, it might just be the greatest unopened mystery on the planet. 12. Diego Garcia. In the middle of the Indian Ocean lies a small coral atoll that houses one of America's most strategically important military bases. Between 1968 and 1973, the British government forcibly removed the entire Chagosian population to make way for the facility. Even today, Diego Garcia still hosts long-range bombers, surveillance aircraft, and a satellite tracking station. The base played key roles in operations in Afghanistan and Iraq. Civilian access is completely prohibited, and flights are restricted from the airspace above. The displaced Chagosians have fought for decades to return home. In 2019, the International Court of Justice ruled the separation illegal, but the UK has ignored the ruling completely. So the island remains a military fortress hidden in paradise. 11. Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center. Buried inside a mountain in the Blue Ridge region of Virginia, Mount Weather is the US government's primary relocation site in the event of a catastrophic attack on Washington, D.C. It's essentially an underground city designed to keep the government functioning during a nuclear war. The facility has been operational since the 50s and includes a hospital, crematorium, dining hall, communication systems, and dormitories for hundreds of government officials. The above-ground FEMA campus is visible, but the underground bunker is classified. Workers commute there daily, but details about the interior remain among the most tightly guarded secrets in the US government, and even Congress has limited oversight of what happens inside the mountain. 10. Mezhgorye. Deep in the Ural Mountains sits a closed city that Russia refuses to acknowledge in any meaningful way. Mezhgorye appears on maps, but is surrounded by military checkpoints, and its roughly 17,000 residents live under strict secrecy agreements. Western intelligence agencies believe it houses a massive underground nuclear facility, while some analysts think Mezhgorye is connected to Russia's Dead Hand system, which is an automated nuclear retaliation mechanism designed to launch missiles even if the entire Russian leadership is wiped out. Russia has never confirmed nor denied these theories. What is known is that 2 battalions of soldiers guard the mountain, railway tunnels lead into the rock, and a massive excavation was observed by satellite throughout the 90s. 9. Niihau. Known as the Forbidden Island, Niihau has been privately owned by the Robinson family since 1864, when they purchased it from King Kamehameha V for $10,000. The island's roughly 130 native Hawaiian residents live without paved roads, running water, or internet, and Hawaiian is still the primary language spoken. Outsiders are almost never allowed to visit. The Robinsons have maintained this policy for over 160 years to preserve the Hawaiian culture and protect the residents from outside influence. There are no stores, no police station, and no doctors. In fact, any medical emergencies require helicopter evacuations to Kauai. Solar panels provide some electricity, but life on Niihau resembles what Hawaii looked like before Western contact. While it's not forbidden by government decree, it is by private ownership and a deep commitment to cultural preservation that has outlasted every other attempt in the islands. 8. Pripyat Amusement Park. This one hits differently. The Pripyat Amusement Park was scheduled to open on May 1st, 1986, just 5 days after the Chernobyl disaster. However, the bright yellow Ferris wheel, bumper cars, and swing boats never welcomed a single visitor. Some accounts suggest the park was briefly opened on April 27th to distract residents while evacuation buses arrived, but this remains disputed. Today, the amusement park is one of the most haunting symbols of the disaster. While day tours pass through Pripyat's outer areas, the amusement park sits within a high radiation zone that limits visit duration to minutes. Now, it's a playground where children were never meant to play. 7. Room 39. Believed to be located inside the Workers' Party building in Pyongyang, Room 39 is North Korea's secret slush fund operation. Defectors and intelligence reports suggest it generates between $500 million and $2 billion annually through counterfeiting, drug trafficking, insurance fraud, and illegal arms sales. The office was allegedly established in 1974 by Kim Il-sung and has operated continuously under all 3 Kim dynasty leaders, It reportedly manages around 120 foreign trade companies and maintains secret bank accounts in China and Switzerland. And all proceeds go directly to the ruling family. No outsider has ever seen Room 39. Its exact location, staff, and full operations remain unknown. What makes it truly forbidden isn't physical barriers, but the totalitarian state apparatus that ensures anyone who talks about it disappears. I'm talking about, oh crap. 6. Pravcicka Brana. Europe's largest natural sandstone arch has a stunning 26-meter wide rock bridge in Bohemian Switzerland National Park, and it's been closed to foot traffic since 1982. The reason? It's slowly crumbling, and every footstep accelerates the erosion. The arch was once a popular tourist walkway, with a restaurant perched nearby and visitors posing for photos on the bridge itself. But geological surveys revealed that the sandstone was deteriorating at an alarming rate, and the Czech government permanently banned access to the top of the arch. You can still view it from below and hike the surrounding trails, but standing on the arch itself is a criminal offense. Scientists estimate it could collapse within the next few centuries. The decision was simple: let humans walk on it and lose it in decades, or protect it and preserve it for future generations. 5. Heard Island Volcano Summit. I mentioned Heard Island earlier, but the summit of Big Ben deserves its own spot. The peak of Mawson Peak is one of the most difficult to reach points on Earth. The volcano is active, covered in glaciers, and battered by some of the worst weather on the planet. Only a handful of expeditions have ever reached the summit. The Australian Antarctic Division strictly controls all access to the island, and climbing the volcano requires permits that are granted perhaps once a decade. The last successful summit was in 2000, and the expedition team described conditions that nearly killed them multiple times. Yet, what makes this peak so extraordinary is its absolute isolation. If something goes wrong, rescue is weeks away. There are no helicopters, no nearby bases, and no communication infrastructure. It's literally the mountain equivalent of another planet. 4. Woomera Prohibited Area. Covering 127,000 square kilometers of South Australian outback, the Woomera Prohibited Area is the largest land-based weapons testing range in the Western world. It's been operational since 1947 and has been used for testing missiles, rockets, and experimental weapons by Australia and its allies. The vast desert landscape is dotted with unexploded ordnance from decades of testing, making it genuinely dangerous to traverse. The Australian Defence Force maintains strict access controls, and unauthorized entry is a serious federal offense. Indigenous communities have limited negotiated access for cultural purposes, but they must follow strict safety protocols. Parts of the range were used for British nuclear weapons tests in the 50s and 60s. In fact, Maralinga, within the prohibited zone, was the site of 7 nuclear detonations. The radioactive contamination cleanup wasn't completed until 2000, and some areas remain permanently off limits. 3. Metro 2. Beneath the streets of Moscow lies a secret metro system that allegedly connects the Kremlin, the Federal Security Service headquarters, Vnukovo Airport, and an underground city in Remenki designed to house 15,000 people during nuclear war. It's called Metro 2, and the Russian government has never confirmed its existence. The system was reportedly built by Stalin in the 50s and expanded under every subsequent Soviet and Russian leader. Former Soviet officials have occasionally mentioned it in interviews, and underground experts claim to have found access tunnels. In 1994, a US Department of Defense report even mentioned the system by name. If it exists as described, Metro 2 sits 50 to 200 meters below Moscow's famous public metro and includes its own stations, ventilation systems, and blast-proof doors. It's the ultimate forbidden transit system, a ghost railway beneath one of the world's great cities. 2. North Brother Island. Sitting in the East River between the Bronx and Rikers Island, North Brother Island is one of the eeriest forbidden places in America, right in the middle of New York City. The island served as a quarantine hospital from the 1880s, and its most famous resident was Typhoid Mary Mallon, who was forcibly isolated there for 23 years until her death in 1938. The island was also the site of the General Slocum disaster in 1904, when a steamship caught fire nearby and over 1,000 people died, the deadliest New York City disaster until 9/11. After the quarantine hospital closed, the island briefly housed returning World War II veterans, then became a drug rehabilitation center that closed in 1963. Since then, nature has completely reclaimed it. The buildings are collapsing under vines and trees, and the island is now a protected bird sanctuary that strictly prohibits all public access. 1. Doomsday Vault at Mount Yamantau. At number 1, we have the most mysterious forbidden place on Earth. Mount Yamantau in the southern Ural Mountains is Russia's largest underground construction project. And despite decades of satellite surveillance and intelligence gathering, the West still doesn't know exactly what's inside. The mountain has been under continuous construction since the Soviet era, with a complex reportedly large enough to house 60,000 people. US intelligence has observed massive rail lines, roads, and infrastructure leading into the mountain. When American officials asked Russian counterparts about it during the 90s, they received contradictory answers, saying it was a mining site, a food storage facility, a bunker for national treasures, and a nuclear war shelter, all at different times. What makes Yamantau the most forbidden place on this list is the total information blackout. In an age of Google Earth and leaked documents, Mount Yamantau remains a genuine enigma. Whatever Russia is building inside this mountain, they've committed extraordinary resources to ensure no one ever finds out. 25 places. 25 hard no's that are backed by radiation, armed guards, ancient arrows, and governments that don't want you asking questions. And the unsettling part? These are just the ones we know about. Which one freaked you out the most? Drop it in the comments below. And if this list kept you up at night, well, I've got another one that might just finish the job. 25 forbidden archaeological sites people aren't allowed to enter. Click on that one next. You won't regret it. Maybe you will. As always, thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe with that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks to Storyblocks for sponsoring today's video. Get 15% off any annual plan for a limited time, only available through the link in the description below.